This isn't really a lecture so much as I want to read a story. There is the story of the prodigal son. I look at it as the parable of two brothers. In the story of the fall of Lucifer, very frequently you will hear about Lucifer and Michael having a fight. And that's what I see the parable of the prodigal son really being about. So here we go. How Michael forgave his brother. In a celestial family, vast beyond imagination, the father and mother of all that exists had a great family of angels. This family is often known as Elohim. Among them, Michael and Lucifer were the eldest. Michael, the embodiment of loyalty and strength, was highly respected as the firstborn, while Lucifer, known as the brightest star of heaven, was celebrated not just for his radiant appearance, but also for his sharp intelligence and his persuasive speech. One day, driven by pride and ambition, Lucifer decided to make a bold move. He approached his father and said, "Father, I want my share of the estate now." Moved by his son's request, the father, wanting to be fair to all his children, decided to divide his wealth amongst all of them, assuring that everyone received their fair portion. Not long after receiving his share, Lucifer, driven by a desire for independence and power, took all that he had to a distant country far away from his father's kingdom. There, his self-indulgence knew no bounds. He lived extravagantly, recklessly spending his wealth without a thought for anyone but himself. His name became a byword for self-indulgence and extravagance, drawing beings from all the different realms to his endless festivities. Fortune first favored Lucifer, but not forever. After wasting his vast wealth, a severe famine hit the land that he was living in, causing hardship and lack. The luxury and entitlement he was used to disappeared, leaving Lucifer and all his companions in great need. Not used to hard times because of his previously luxurious life, Lucifer found himself destitute, desperate, and now responsible for the well-being of all of those who came with him. He was far from his father's house, a place of plenty and safety. This was the moment Lucifer understood the extent of his downfall. Lucifer hit rock bottom, somewhere he never thought he'd find himself. His decision to leave his father's house, driven by pride and a wish for independence, led to tough times that he never had anticipated. He and all of his followers were constantly hungry, a big change from the plenty that they had at his father's estate. He realized that he'd made his choices in haste and out of pride, and now the consequences were clear. Far from their once magnificent state, he and his followers were suffering because of his actions. Lucifer, realizing that it was time to set things right, decided to return to his father, fully prepared to face any and every consequence. He crafted an apology, acknowledging his wrongdoings. "Father, I have failed you, and I do not deserve to be called your son. I'm willing to work as if I were just a hired hand, and I ask you to take care of all of those whom I've misled." He hoped not only for his own forgiveness and mercy, but also for his followers to regain favor in heaven. With a mix of regret and hope, Lucifer began his journey back, seeking forgiveness and the opportunity to correct his errors. He held onto the possibility of his father's mercy and the chance to bring peace and redemption for all. From afar, Lucifer's father glimpsed him. Bursting with joy and love, he hurried to embrace and kiss his long-lost child. Before his father, heavy-hearted Lucifer began his confession, "Father, I have wronged you beyond words. I'm unworthy of being your son." The father, full of compassion and understanding, interrupted him. He turned to his angels, his voice echoing with authority throughout the heavens, and commanded, "Quickly, bring out Lucifer's finest robe, the one we've been saving for his return, and dress him. Put a ring on his finger to show that he's back in our family, and give him sandals for his feet. This means that he's no longer an outsider. Spare no effort, for tonight we shall have a feast. We will celebrate, for my son who was lost has been found. He was as good as dead, but now he is alive again." Lucifer was welcomed into the house by his father, as his mother and siblings greeted him with overwhelming joy and praise. Their hearts brimmed with joy and praise, while all the angels in heaven celebrated, rejoicing at the celestial family being reunited once more. Michael had spent the whole day toiling away for his father in the heavenly fields. Upon returning home, he was met with unexpected sights and sounds of music and dancing. Surprised and somewhat puzzled, he shouted over to an angel who was momentarily stepping away from the festivities. "What's all this commotion about?" he asked. The angel, smiling widely, replied with excitement, "Your brother's come home," unveiling the joyous reason for the celebration. "Your father has spared no expense in heaven to celebrate his safe return." As the jubilant crowd celebrated, Michael's anger was palpable. He clenched his fists tightly, trying to control his emotions, but the seething rage inside him prevented him from pretending everything was all right. Michael felt unappreciated for his hard work and loyalty, and his frustration boiled over. He was angry with his father, who had given Lucifer a warm welcome but appeared to overlook Michael's hard work. Even though his father tried to involve him, Michael's harsh words brought tension into the hall. The family wanted to celebrate, but Michael's bitterness dampened the mood. Michael's father led him into the garden, wrapping him in a warm embrace. "My dear son," he began, his voice tender, filled with affection, "you have always been faithfully by my side. Our bond is inseparable and deeply valued. Everything I possess is for you, for your joy, and for your benefit, now and into eternity. My love and appreciation for you knows no bounds. Our celebration tonight is for the unity of our family, which has been restored. We have profound reason to rejoice. Your brother, whom we feared lost as though he were dead, is back, alive, and well. He was adrift, but now he's returned to the warmth and love of our home and family." Reflecting on his father's words, Michael remembered, "Lucifer is your brother, and he deserves forgiveness." The return of Lucifer filled Michael with a complex mix of joy and relief. Their relationship as heaven's archangels was complex. Despite their differences, their bond remained unbreakable. With Lucifer's return, the brothers were ready to reunite with their siblings and to restore heaven. Lucifer made peace with Michael and everyone in heaven, and Michael forgave Lucifer. Together, they were determined to restore order to humanity and committed to their mission of success. Lucifer faced the daunting task of liberating souls ensnared by the demiurge's spell, a predicament he himself had inadvertently created. In support, Michael supplied Lucifer with the solar light, a formidable power capable of reinstating any soul into heaven's divine design upon their request. Michael was enveloped in a sense of peace and fulfillment. He recognized this as his true calling, to stand by his brother's side, dedicating themselves to the redemption of God's children, all souls. Now here's the original version of that story, so you can see it by comparison. A certain man had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me a portion of the goods that falleth to me." And he divided them unto them his living. And not many days after, the son gathered all together and took his journey into a far country, and there wasted his substance with riotous living. And when he had spent all, a mighty famine arose in that land, and he began to be in want. And he joined himself to a citizen of that country, sending him to his fields to feed swine. And he would fain to have filled his belly with the husks that swine did eat, and no man gave unto him. And when he came to himself, he said, How many hired servants of my father's have bread enough to spare, and I perish with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before thee, and I am no more worthy to be called thy son. Make me one of thy hired servants. And he arose, and he came to his father. But when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him, had compassion, and ran, and fell on his neck, and kissed him. And the son said unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in thy sight, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. But the father said to his servants, Quickly, bring out the best robe, and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand, and shoes on his feet, and bring the fatted calf. Kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For my son was dead, and he is alive again. He was lost and is found. And they all began to celebrate. Now his older son was in the field, and as he came and drew near to the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked what these things meant. And he said to him, Your brother has come, and your father has slaughtered the fatted calf, because he has received him back safe and sound. But he was angry and refused to go in. His father came out and entreated him. But he answered his father, Look, these many years I have served you, and I've never disobeyed your command, yet you never gave me a young goat that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him? And he said to him, Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. It was fitting to celebrate and be glad, for this your brother was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found. So it was a bit of a jump, my story, but I was highly inspired when I came upon that prodigal son story again. It threw me into a vision. Whether or not it was originally intended to be that, this was a pure Luciferian story. The brother had to forgive the prodigal son. So Michael had to forgive Lucifer, and Lucifer had to atone. And together, they became a stronger bond. And that strong bond is what lifts us all up. And see, what happens is when we look at these kinds of stories and we internalize them, and recognize that each of the characters in that story represent a different part of our mind, boy, there's a lot that can be gleaned, and you can lean on the wisdom in that story and actually use it for your own rising, for your own redemption, for your own at-one-ment, or what they call atonement. You can recognize that what our purpose here is not feeling guilty for sins, but the opposite. To reclaim our innocence, to realize that nothing we could ever possibly have done is going to be held against us, because infinite intelligence loves us unconditionally. But because we tend to carry around guilt, because that's how the ego mind works. The ego mind wants to remind us how separate we are. And the ego mind, by reminding us how separate we are, uses guilt as its main tool to do that. And wherever there's guilt, there's a fear of punishment. And so we walk around always with this dull sense of fear that something bad's going to happen because we must be guilty. And since too much of that guilt is too much for us to bear, the ego tends to project the guilt out onto other people, or project it out onto our body, project it out so that it's not something that is going to consume us. And what that does is it makes us separate from everybody else. When we can rise up and allow ourselves to no longer feel guilty because we didn't do anything wrong, we are innocent children. Once we let go of that guilt, we have to let go of the ego. And once we let go of the ego and we let go of the guilt, then we realize that there's nothing to fear, because there is no punishment. And the reason why there's no punishment is because there's nothing to punish, because we are as we were created, innocent children. And when we can see other people as innocent children, what we're doing is giving ourselves the gift of our own innocence. And so that's what I got from this story. And I thought I'd share that with you, and I hope that was interesting for you. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. Until next time, blessed be.